Hey everyone, this is Kenny Coins with Marathon Money. I have a special guest here. His name is Vinnie Romano. He was born in the UK. He has an Italian last name. He actually lives in Australia.
Yeah.
He runs a company, MySocial.ai. I met him through LinkedIn. Just had a brief conversation with him before this. Really cool guy, really genuine. Vinny, tell me, like, how did you start MySocial.ai?
Well, so my social, thanks, Kenny. Good to be here. Thanks for reaching out and thanks for inviting me onto your show. Hello, everyone. I'm Vinny. And Kenny's right. I do have an Italian last name. Um, MySocial.ai is my fourth business in my professional career. I've had three previously. Two which were absolute duds, didn't go anywhere, nothing happened. Um, Either the idea was crap or the execution was crap, one of the two. But business number three went well to the point where I successfully exited from that business, um, and ultimately used the the knowledge, the network, and the capital from business number three to get me to a position where we're now a team of six with MySocial.ai, without any investment. um, how it started with a problem that myself and my co-founder uh, identified. Um, it's a long-standing problem in our world. We're both marketers slash salespeople in the corporate and enterprise space, um, and we identified a problem. We knew about this problem for a while, um, but we together found a solution in a manual method. And with both of our backgrounds and the networks that we have, we both are driven to create a product that ultimately productizes the process, the manual process, to solve for that problem. And that's what we're on the journey of doing. And that's where we are now.
That's awesome, man. I do want to ask you one question. You said you
Sure.
had other like businesses that
Yeah.
failed, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Most people in that position,
Uh,
because you're not in that position anymore, most people in that position would never start another business. So, how did
mm,
you get through that hurdle? You got through that hurdle a couple times.
mm, mm. How did I get through that hurdle? I think it was the I think it was the motivation and the drive that I didn't want to build someone else's dream.
Man,
Um, and when you when you're an employee, and this is not to alienate anyone in your audience that is an employee that works at a company that gets paid a regular paycheck. I have been there. I have done that. I did that for the majority of the beginning of my career. And it wasn't until later on in my career where I started business number one. That failed. Went back and started working for someone else. Uh, Realized that I didn't like it. Uh, I disliked it slightly more, um, going
that
back to
freedom,
working for someone
that
else.
freedom that you had when you
That's
when
it.
you left the first
Yeah,
time.
that's it. And then business number two, sort of tried something, enjoyed that, but failed. And then went back and worked for someone else. Again, disliked it slightly even more. Um, and then found my way starting business number three, took off, was working, tick boxes. Was in that business for 5.5 years. And then at that point, it was a case of, okay, well, what do I do now that I've exited? So I went back and I started working for other people again, and I absolutely hated it. And I thought, quite simply,
Gradually
fuck
hated it every time you went back.
Yeah, no, fuck this. It's bullshit. So that was when it kind of hit me. My close group of friends at the time could see how miserable it was making me, and they were a big part in helping me realize that I needed to do something else again for myself. But I just needed to find out what that was. And this time round, business number 4, from the learnings of businesses 1 to 3, you sort of pick up some things along the way in terms of, okay, well, if I'm going to start another one, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to make sure I have this, and I'm going to make sure that this is there. And, you just kind of learn. I mean, at least I think that's what everyone would do.
You never really start from scratch.
No, you never really start from scratch. And the great thing is that you continuously build your network and you continuously build your knowledge. And by dipping your toe into doing something for yourself, you realize not only how empowering it can be, and how much freedom you can have to innovate, to play, to tinker, without feeling like that you're going to get in trouble. Of course, you trade in getting in trouble to not being able to pay the bills. So it's kind of a balancing act. There's a lot of, needing to back yourself. But I think that confidence comes the more you do it. And I am a big believer that no one starts with confidence. You have to have the courage to start to be able to get the confidence to continue.
You remind me of this quote: failure is a learning opportunity. Failure is a prerequisite to learning. Failure should be a teacher, but not an undertaker. I feel like when you say you learn stuff over here, you learn not to do that over here, and you learn not to do that, and you learn to put places here and places here. I feel like you learn from all your failures. And when you said every time you went back to working for somebody, you gradually hate it a little bit more until it becomes disgusting to you. Yeah. And I feel like that's like, you ever seen a guy who tried to start his own business, was successful for a little bit, and it completely failed, and he comes back to work and he's just the meanest person in the world, and it's just like, dude, why are you like this? And
so mean.
Why are you so mean? And the truth is, man, it's just like, he's at this point, he gotten so afraid that he's so scared because he lost everything, and he's so scared now he takes that out. It's just, I feel like you just like flat out just like realize you like did an assessment on yourself every single time. It's no, I really hate this. I don't even know why I keep coming back.
Yeah, I've got to be honest.
It wasn't comfort level.
It wasn't as linear as that, right? So it's all very well and good me giving you the highlights after it's happened. Yeah. Just spoiler alert for anyone that's thinking of going into work on Monday, and thinking that let's listen to what he said. It's a gradual process. You don't walk in on Monday and kind of go, let me look at myself. I really fucking hate this. And that's not going to be the same for everyone, right? But it's just not a linear process. You realize and look at things as they come up throughout that process, and kind of come to that conclusion. Good people around you, people that know you, people that have your best interests at heart, good support network. It can. That can be the catalyst to helping you find out, but it might happen in a completely different way. Sorry, I interrupted your last question. What were you going to say?
No, my is Do you think when people do that, is it because of a comfort level?
When
When
uh,
people
when
go
people,
back to, they like run back to work for somebody. Do you think you did that for comfort, or do you think you did that? Oh no, you could have thought you did that because that's all you know. Like, did you ever figure out the reason why you kept on going back?
um, I mean, I don't think it's any more complex of an answer than that's just what you kind of do. I mean, if you don't know, if you don't have an idea for starting a business of your own, then what are your options? You need to make money somehow. What's the way that you make money? Well, you get a job. Okay, well, what job should what job should I get? Right. And then you look at what skills do you have? What value can you bring to an organization, mixed with what would you like to do? What do you have a passion for? Da 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 da. I've been very fortunate that throughout my career, um, I've kind of been quite consistent in what it is that I've done. I'm not someone who's chopped and changed to different industries, different career paths. So I've been very fortunate that whatever it is that I've started a business in as well, by the way, whatever I've started a business in, it's always been consistent with the area within which I've had a job. So, and I think maybe subconsciously there's been an element of, well, if I'm going to have a crack at something, let's make sure that it stays within the realm so that if it doesn't work out, and that's probably the wrong way to do it, because you've always got a backup plan, which I don't know if is the right way to do it or not. Some people say yes, some people say no. But back to the point is that anything that I did out on my own, there was always that thread of consistency. In case it didn't work out, I could go back to get a job in the same sort of industry to be able to say, oh, I had a hiatus from full-time employment because I wanted to try this. And I was able to actually use that as a way to stand out in the job interview process, to be able to say, well, I'm not afraid to go out and try new things. I've got the confidence to be able to do that. There are parts of that that could be valuable for me, bringing that to this role, for example. So to your question, which was, why was it, why do I think I went back to get a job?
Yeah. Like,
It's just,
what was it comfortable? Was it because, I
yeah.
guess it comes down to, like, did you want why did you do it in the same industry which you answered? And I guess the other question, like the follow-up question would be, was like, were you thinking about a different industry and that fear that if it fails that you might not be able to go back to the industry that you was working for somebody in?
So to answer that a little bit more with detail, the when I say industry, um, I effectively have always stuck around marketing and sales. So that's not really an industry. Industry can be thought of as education or tech or financial
Yeah.
services, right? So the core skill of marketing as a broad term, then you dig deep into the different types of marketing that there are. There's traditional, there's digital, there's SEO, there's PPC, there's, inbound, there's outbound, there's so many that you can sort of, pick one, right? I suppose industry was the wrong word to use, maybe, because what I would say is that I would stick in the marketing space, trying my hand at different types of marketing and sales alignment techniques, because that's what I had a passion in,
Yeah.
irrespective of the industry. I have worked in the fitness industry, for example. I have worked very heavily in the technology industry. I have worked in the financial services industry. So industry agnostic, but always sticking to the consistent of sales, marketing, following my passion of trying to align sales and marketing more specifically within B2B marketing rather than B2C marketing. B2B marketing being marketing that businesses market to other businesses as opposed to consumers, right? So that in itself is kind of a safety net that I have fallen back on because I've been able to go, well, okay, I understand this as a topic, and I can sort of try my hand and use my skills in different areas of B2B marketing across industry. If that answers your question a little bit more.
No, it does. It does.
Yeah.
So what does MySocial.ai does for your clients?
Well, interestingly, Kenny, myself and my co-founder are actually going through a 3-week campaign of market research at the moment. We are looking at a pivot to the business, hot off the press news. MySocial.ai in its original inception is, and it still exists as what the original purpose of it was, is a platform that connects to your personal LinkedIn profiles, whether you're an individual or someone as part of a bigger team. It connects to your personal LinkedIn profiles. It understands who you are as a person, understands the audience that you want to speak to, creates content which is formatted and optimized for LinkedIn specifically, tells you the best time to post that piece of content, and encourages you to post consistently, authentically, with relevance, capturing your tone of voice and learning your tone of voice, but also learning what intent signals that you receive from your desired audience from certain content pieces, thus allowing you to have more personalized outreach if you are in sales, if you are in marketing, if you are in HR and looking for talent. That's what MySocial.ai as a platform does. But we are looking at a current pivot, which I can't disclose at the moment because we don't know 100% what that is yet. We have a fair idea. We have a fair understanding. But what I will tell you is this, is that back to our theme of failure, I'm not saying that MySocial has failed. It hasn't. It's successful in its own right. Is it as successful as we would like it in its current form? No. And I'll tell you the reason why. The reason why we don't believe it is as successful as we would like is because we have realized that as much as we want to help individuals with sales and marketing of themselves, and then by association, their organization within which they work via their personal LinkedIn profiles, what we realize is that anyone that's underneath country manager level and below doesn't see the instant value, doesn't get the instant value for this long-term strategic play, which is content marketing in an organic sense. So basically, Kenny, we have built a tool which is really fucking cool and does a really good job if you stick with it. Problem is, not everyone gives a fuck. So what it is that we've created in hindsight is more of a supplement rather than a painkiller. And that's crucial, because if you're building something for someone to help them do something that they don't necessarily really see need, like really fucking need, then you're just shoveling shit up a hill, basically. And trying to sell it in takes a lot more education, takes a lot more of a just takes a lot more work with not a great deal of a reward. So maximum effort, minimum reward. Whereas the other side of our business, which is more attuned to executives in larger sized organizations, that side's going really well, and more successful than we had ever imagined. It's just that doesn't exist yet, and that's what we're looking at. So I can't tell you any more, Kenny, because otherwise I'm going to get in trouble. I think I've already told you too much. But we are currently in the stage of that pivot. We're doing the market research, and we are going to see where we land. I've got my co-founder, who, by the way, is the ex-head of social and digital marketing of Microsoft Australia. His
Really?
name's Wayne. Yeah, he's an ex-client of mine from business number 3. We are doing some exciting things. I think we need to be a bit more scrappy. I think we need to be less polished, which is, I would argue, is probably been the approach that we have been taking. And I think we need to kind of go back to the drawing board a little bit. But I will say this, is that we wouldn't know about this potential pivot if we didn't give it a go in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, I truly believe that you guys found your niche by starting this business, and you realized that there is other opportunities and you can make something bigger. I want to talk about your third business. You said you exited that business.
Yeah.
Why did you exit?
So business number 3 was an agency. So my entire professional career has really been based around creative advertising. So I've worked in creative advertising agencies across the UK, Europe, and Asia Pacific, most notably Australia. And basically that role that I was in those agencies was an account person. So I would be the bridge between the client and the agency, client relationship manager, looking after the client's needs in terms of the campaigns, what we needed to work on, getting the briefs from them, dealing with our strategic team, turning that into a creative brief, and then creating creative ads. I've worked on some very famous campaigns in my professional career. So business number 3 was an agency of my own, which I started back in 2015. We specifically wanted to work in the B2B side of things, so B2B communications, and very much in the digital space. And what it is that we were doing there was we were working with enterprise technology and financial services clients for their digital content marketing needs, everything from the creative, the strategy, the automation, and everything in between. And within 5 years, we were turning over 3.5 million AUD. So that's not as impressive when you convert that into USD, but bear with me. 3.5 million AUD, 15 staff. And it got to the point where, so when we started the business, we had very good advisors around us. And I think this was one of the reasons why I deem it as a success. In the very beginning, two things were said to me, which I didn't apply in the previous 2 businesses. The first one was, before you start this business, or as you are starting this business, this is business number 3, create the business plan with the exit strategy in mind. And that's really key. The exit strategy for business number 3 was to wrap up the business and sell it to a larger conglomerate within 5 years' time. We did that. We wrote that down as part of the entire business plan, me and my other co-founders. And that's what we did.
Well, that's a success.
Whether we knew that that's what was actually going to happen, that's what happened. And, it was around the 5-year mark. The numbers that were projected were a little bit off. The amount of people that we thought that we'd have by year 5 wasn't exact. But the key point that I'm saying here is that in the very beginning, we wrote the business plan for business number 3 with the exit strategy in mind, to exit in 5 years' time. And that's what happened. So that was really key for me. And that was one of the things that I've taken to business number 4. When you start a business, write the business plan. doesn't have to. I mean, kudos if you download a template from Google from an authority institution like your government, who helps with business templates, right? Business plan templates. And if you sit down and you really think about it and write it down, but it doesn't have to be as stringent as that. But whatever you do when starting a business, what I found has been really helpful for success is defining what success looks like. Number one, what does success look like in order for us to measure if we have been successful? And for us in business number 3, it was to exit in 5 years. So we've done the same thing with business number 4. Not to exit in 5 years, another exit strategy. And everything that we do comes back to that. So every conversation that we have when we feel like that we've kind of strayed from the path, if we're over here, we ask ourselves, remind ourselves of the exit strategy. What are we trying to achieve? What decisions do we make based on being informed and constantly reminded of what we're trying to achieve as the exit strategy? And so I think that's really, really key. Firstly, defining what success looks like, and then having it as part of your ongoing internal monologue to guide you as to where you're going, because it helps you make those decisions when you're in a sticky spot, if you're in a good spot.
Man,
no matter what
I'm definitely gonna use that. That is a great piece of advice, and to tell you the truth, I believe that is successful because you did exactly what you say you're gonna do. It's never gonna look like in every step of the way, but you did exactly what you say you're gonna do, and that is a good way, because if you map out the end, all your decisions are going to be based on that end, how you want the end to look like.
I will also say that there was a large dose of luck in business number 3 coming to the premeditated end goal. There was a whole load of luck. But what I will say is that you yourself are responsible for increasing your luck surface area. So if you're putting yourself in a position where you can increase the likelihood of getting lucky, as opposed to just wishing and praying, that's also been key. So you are responsible for increasing your luck surface area. Luck will come, but you have to have an end goal. You have to know roughly where you're going, and make it a definition of success. Because you know what? Even if we had exited in 4 years, because we had written down that it was in 5 years, we would have been able to go, we were successful by an extra year. But we wouldn't have been able to say that if we hadn't have said that we exited, that if we hadn't have written down that the goal was exiting in 5 years. Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I think
you're able to quantify it.
I think there's a lot of stuff to say about, think about it if you stopped at business number 1.
Yeah.
And think about it if you stopped at business number 2. There will never be this luck that you say. To me, it's not really luck. I just think you just flat out never gave up, and the opportunity presented itself and you guys were ready and took advantage. I don't think if you did business number 3 was business number 1, even if you had the success, you might have not been ready for the opportunity when it came.
Mm.
But
because business number 3 was an amalgamation of all the failures that I'd learned in business 1 and 2.
Yeah. So you was able to withstand because you had battle wounds and scars, and you knew exactly what you needed to do. So the foundation was more ready and strong.
I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I just knew where I'd failed and what didn't work. And don't get me wrong, in business number 3, we failed so much. Business number 4, we're failing. But I'll tell you this. I can't speak for my co-founder because I haven't ever asked him this question. But I will tell you this. without sounding cliche, I now look for failure. I now look for ways that I can fail. In
I
terms
think,
of,
yeah.
failure is key to success. So how do I now fail to know that I'm going to be more successful? Does that make sense?
No, it 100% makes sense. I think people don't look at the world like that. It's like once they fail, it's almost it's like devastation. It's like
I
I
think
failed. It's over. It's done. Um,
I think people are scared to start because they think they might fail, right? So a lot of people have a lot of ideas, but there is a saying that, you know, an idea is great, but without execution, it's nothing, right? I don't know if I've absolutely botched that saying, but without execution, an idea is worth nothing. And so a lot of people will have all these ideas, but they don't execute. And I'm not saying everyone, but some people will not execute because they're scared of failing.
yeah,
I
and
would
then
say try and embrace failure.
and I think like it also like kind of reminds me of like this like quote like and I want to make sure I'm saying it right. Um, People are jealous of what you got, but not jealous of how you got it. People see the trophies, but don't see the battlegrounds. I think that's a lot of the battlegrounds and the hard work that people are jealous of is all due to repeat failures.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think if you didn't, the first two businesses, if you didn't fail at that, people will go look at, I look at third as super successful. You exited, you sold it off. People will just say that's luck. And when you say it's luck, I don't think it's really luck because nobody saw like the two failed businesses. Nobody saw all the stuff you had to learn, all the heartache, having to go back to work for somebody, and I mean, hating it all over again and then doing it twice. It's just it's like people look at you and they will say, "Man, I'm jealous," but the truth is, no, I guarantee you wouldn't be jealous on what I had to go through to get to this point.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So man, dude, we're past the 30-minute mark. I kind of got lost in the conversation. But man, I really appreciate you being on here. Learned a lot. Definitely taking that route about the business plan. I think a lot of people should think that way. I think it helps you make really good decisions when you know where you're going and you know what to do and what not to do. It's a lot easier to say no to things and a lot easier to say yes to things when you have an exit plan. So
The I'll just say this, Kenny. I still have 15 minutes. If you still have 15 minutes, I'm happy to see it through.
yeah, man. If you got a few more things you could say,
I got a few more
uh,
things. Yeah.
man, please drop some wisdom.
Okay. So to the to the writing down the exit strategy piece, right?
Yeah,
I'll use an analogy of if I asked you to get in the car and ask you to you're in New York, right?
yes, I'm in New York.
Okay. So let's say I said, Kenny, jump in the car and start driving.
Yeah,
I want you to jump in your car and I want you to start driving. What would be your first question?
where am I going?
Uh-huh. Right. And if I then said to you, don't worry where you're going, just jump in your car and start driving. What you're likely to do is get in your car and start driving around places that you know.
Yeah,
So you're going around the streets, you know this area, you know this area, you know this area, and sometimes you might veer off and start to get lost, but then you go, whoa, 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 hang on, let's go back to where we know. Comfort, 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 right? And so you do that for an hour or two. And I then turn to you and I say, so Kenny, you asked me before, where are you going? You say
yeah,
yes. And I say, okay, so now that you've been driving for an hour without me telling you where to go, now I want you to head north.
Yeah.
Right? There's no map, there's no GPS, there's no nothing, right? Just head north. So it's down to you to figure out the path or the route north. And forgive me, my North American geography is not so great, but let's say you start in New York and you start, you go on the roads that and you're driving around those roads, and then you start to see road signs of heading north, right? Let's just, for the sake of it, apologies all Americans that are listening to this, but let's just say you're driving to Canada, right?
Yeah.
And you see signs for Canada, so I know that's roughly north. So
that's correct.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So you're now starting to head towards Canada because you know that that's north.
No.
But without any map or anything, you might go a little bit over this way and realize, oh, I'm not going that. I need to be going north. And then you come back in, and then you go, and then you go like this, and right. And then eventually you will make it to the north. I haven't told you specifically where to go. So you've been doing that for a couple of hours. Then I throw you a GPS and I say, right, this is where you want to go. This very point. Now, in option 2, you were sort of heading in that direction. Option 1, you weren't going anywhere because you had no idea.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah.
If I make it a little bit clearer, you start to head in that direction, and you might eventually get there, but you'll be battered and bruised and tired and, all that stuff, right?
Frustrated.
But with a GPS, you're able to identify roughly where. I don't mean a specific, city or state or town in Canada, but roughly that's where you're going. So I use that analogy, and it's probably a little bit basic, but you get the point, right? Is that if you can get a rough idea as to where you're going, not only do you increase your chances of getting there, you take advantage of the luck that comes your way along that journey, but you're also likely to arrive there a lot quicker than if you hadn't. And it's just such a simple analogy because, quite simply, you've identified roughly where you want to get to. We wanted specifically to exit in 5 years' time. And like I said, we did that. Large dose of luck, but I don't think it was partly writing it out and making sure that that was the thing. But the thing that kept us towards getting to that goal was that in the battlefields, during the days where we didn't feel like getting out of bed, in those awkward and difficult conversations with clients and customers and colleagues and co-workers, the thing that guided us was that very sentence as we went towards it.
Yeah.
And so luck will come because it does happen. Good things do happen to all people. Bad things happen to all people as well. So through the good, through the bad, as long as you've got a clear understanding, that was a key lesson for me. The second key lesson, which I didn't mention, which happened a little bit later on in the journey of that 5-year stint, was the same advisor said to me about a year or a year and a half in. They said to me, you need to get specific on who you are doing this work for. And I said, well, no, if we get too specific, remember that we're a content agency, so we can create content no matter what industry, no matter what country, no matter what time zone, no matter what language, we can do it. If someone sends us a brief, or if we're talking to someone, we can do it. And the advisor said to me, they said, that's all very well and good. You can do it, but by niching down and starting to communicate who you do it for and stick to it, you will notice a change. And so I was reluctant at first because I thought that by niching down as to who we were going to be using our skills for, I was thinking that we were significantly alienating a large majority of the market that we could otherwise be helping, which all of a sudden that now we're being advised to talk to only a small subset of these people. That's madness. Against my judgment, we niched down and we started to communicate that we were focusing on enterprise-sized organizations in technology and financial services. And do you know what happened? The business went like that. The business went like that because all of a sudden we were able to have better quality conversations with more people within that space, and the entire market just completely blew open for us. We were being more specific with who we needed to talk to, who we wanted to talk to, what we wanted to talk to them about, and we were able to go deep and wide instead of remaining on surface level. And that, for me, was such a pivotal point, because the other side of that is that as we started to go deep and wide into enterprise tech and financial services, content creation, content strategy for B2B organizations, people outside of that started coming to us to work with us from outside of what we had defined that we wanted to work with. So without trying, we had more companies from outside of what we now communicating started coming to us. And we didn't turn them away. We said, of course. But we did make mention that they were not our specific target audience. And so that was another key lesson, in that don't try and be everything to everyone. Try and solve a niche problem for a niche audience so that you can get deep and wide into that knowledge area. That was another, those are the two main things that I've taken from business 3 as to why I believe they were successful into business 4.
Man, those two were probably the two greatest advices, to be honest with you.
Well, they have been for me.
You can go deep, then you go wide. It's almost like a tree.
Mm-hmm.
The deeper the tree is, the wider the roots, the farther it goes.
Mm-hmm. And the more specific you get, and that means that the better the soil, right?
Yeah, the better the soil.
The better the soil.
I think would you ever exited if you didn't have that exit plan?
To be honest, I can't. I don't know. I don't know. I would say that the chances of us seeing it as an option when the opportunity arose, because that's what I mean, the opportunity arose at around the right sort of time. And when that happens, when the opportunity arises, because there isn't people out there constantly going, I want to buy this, I want to buy that, I want to buy this, I want to buy that. And if there are, you don't know about them when they happen. You're not necessarily told when they happen, but the opportunity landed with us. And it was one of those moments where when the opportunity arose for this, for the exit to happen, we all sort of looked at each other and went, huh, that's what we said that we'd want to happen. And then it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, I hear you. I just always wonder if there was like, you're doing so well. You know, I mean, you found your roots, you found your niche, you put in that work. Maybe there was a thought that crossed your mind and said, like, we can go,
I was ready
to 5
million. I was ready to move on.
Oh, okay.
I was ready to move on. I was ready to. I think all of us were ready to move on. Well,
man, that's really it for me, man. I'm definitely, there's a lot of things I learned here, man. The exit plan, how you did things,
Mm.
be be unique, be true to yourself. There's a lot of things that I think that we can take from your journey. And I hope my social.ai takes off the way you guys envision it. Because just by what you told me about my social.ai, I can see how that can be implemented to several things in
Mm.
my mind. It's such a good
Mm.
idea.
Mm.
Um, to me, I'm reading this book, 22 Laws of Marketing. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
No, I'm writing it down though.
Yeah, it's called 22 Laws of Marketing. And I feel like you kind of have like a lot of the principles in that book. Um, the first one of the first laws is be first. And the second law,
Mm.
if you can't be first, create a new category and be first in that. And I'm I don't know if you ever if that really truly applies in marketing. I'm just really learning as much as I can about marketing, starting out that journey. But just seeing that you do and making me want to read that book and get into more and just see the perception. You're probably, I don't know how big are you into psychology of the mind. I'm pretty sure marketing has a lot to do with that.
It does.
Uh, Yeah. So, but man, Vinny, I really appreciate you coming on. I really, honestly, I learned tremendous amount. Definitely a lot of stuff that you learn. I'm definitely going to implement into what I'm doing.
Okay.
Um, I want to say thank you to everybody that's watching and listening. This is Marathon Money, and thank you, Vinny, for being on.
Thanks,
Really
Kenny.
appreciate
Appreciate
it.
you having me on. Thank you for the invite, and I wish you well in the movement of success that you're going on.
Thank
So,
you. Thank
thank
you.
you.